Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for an episode with some of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast comes from a recent Zoom meeting of the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This discussion is led by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
Welcome everyone to the April AIAP Zoom meeting. We're talking today about social media and how to do it well and how to do it effectively so that it has a big impact on marketing. And just want to welcome everybody here this morning. I thought we'd start out with just kind of some basics about using social media. And I'll tell you what I'm doing first of all, and then we'll kind of throw it out to everybody to chime in and correct me where need be and give me some advice, and maybe we can have a discussion that benefits everybody here. I use a program called Hootsuite, and I just want to open up here, and I'll share my screen here. Okay, this is Hootsuite. This is my calendar. So this is how I schedule it, and I can schedule in Hootsuite allows you to schedule multiple days at a time and over multiple platforms, so that you create one post. And this is a post that I did, which has been my most successful so far this year. And I posted this in March. March 11th was when this post came in. So this post, I had 48,000 views on this the first week on LinkedIn, which to me, that was a pretty good post. I know that that's not viral, but for an architectural photographer, I thought that was pretty good. And so in creating that post, I just use Hootsuite to do that. So I only had to create it one time. So I click on this to create a post, and then I have my social media networks connected here. So I can go through here and click on the ones that I want to post to. And then I create the post by writing the captions here, and then add the media that I'm going to post on there as far as the photograph. Now this particular one here that I showed you, I tagged my client, the architect, and also the construction company that was involved in this. And the nice thing about tagging them is that then they tend to reshare these posts. And the way that you do that is by using the @ symbol and then typing in the name of the company. So say I'm gonna in the LinkedIn window here on Hootsuite. So say I had done something and HOK was my my client, and so I typed in the @ and then HOK, and then that gave me so that that's now linked with HOK, so that HOK will get an alert that they've been tagged in a post. And the same thing works in both in Facebook and in Instagram.
And how is that different than using the hashtag, like listing the architect with a hashtag in front of it?
Well, the hashtag, unless somebody's following that hashtag, the architect's not ever going to know about that.
Okay.
But if you put that @ symbol in there, then it's going to tag them. And you may have been tagged by somebody in a post, and you get a notification in Facebook or Instagram that you've been tagged by so and so in a post. And that's the way that happens. So So, if I was to tag, let's just say, I'm going to tag myself here. So if I wanted to tag myself in here, this would show up and I would get a notification now in Facebook when this post goes live that that somebody has tagged me by doing that. And so I write this post so that I have tagged, and that you see that highlighted in a different color there. That shows that you've tagged that company. So these two companies I tagged on this particular one. I could have tagged the University of Utah as well and the Gymnastics Center because they both have social media pages. And then I've used hashtags underneath here, Glenn, because there are people that follow hashtags. And most SEO consultants will tell you that 5 hashtags is about the maximum that you want to put down. And so these 5 hashtags, we're not off the top of my head. I used ChatGPT to arrive at these 5 hashtags. And I just asked ChatGPT, what are the top 5 hashtags for university sports architecture? And so it gave me these 5 hashtags here. And so then I post this. So then I go back here and let me go back to my calendar here. So then I post this, and I posted it on LinkedIn. I've got both a personal page for myself and a company page, and then I've got a company Facebook page and a company Instagram page. And I scheduled those a couple weeks out. Actually, I do a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule when I'm doing social media. And Hootsuite will suggest times of day that are optimum for these posts. This is these were 8 a.m. posts that I did here this week, the week of March 9th. And then these all go out automatically, and you only have to create the post once. But you can, it costs if you want to do something like this on Hootsuite, but you can create these posts individually in these different social media programs and still have the same effect. So this was just an example, with a single image. And this is one that did really well for me. Most of my engagement tends to be in the 10 to 25,000 views. This one happened to be double that, so I felt pretty good about that. And they stay up there and they continue to get views. So that's always good. But that's the kind of thing that works for me. So, but that's the track that I use. So I will schedule out, and I don't do these every week of the year. Just when I feel like there's some slow times, and I'll try to fill in the gaps a little bit. And what happens is I find that I get a lot of reshares on these. I got reshares from people that weren't even involved in these projects, and that happens fairly regularly. And then one thing I should say is on LinkedIn, you'll see how many people engage. You'll see the people that engage with it, that comment on it or like it or things like that. And I will typically go in and connect with those people since they've liked my post, and create a connection there. And then I will go in and find their email address. And Barry, you've talked about the email finder that you use, which is hunter.io. And I use that a lot, and also use Leadleaper to find email addresses for people. And then I'll just add them to my my database for when I send out a mass email. And that tends to work really well. And then these are people that they know who I am, and so they're generally going to open that. And as a result of doing that, when I first started doing mass email, I was getting an open rate of anywhere from 6 to 15%, somewhere in that range. And now I'm getting an open rate of between 30 and 40%, which is huge difference. Makes it a lot more worthwhile.
So real quick, that the Hootsuite plan that you're on, that's the $100 a month plan, or 99.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
So you're finding it's worth $1,200 a year?
Absolutely. And there are some discount coupons out there.
Oh, okay.
If
You might want to check out Buffer as well.
Yeah.
Very similar interface and price point
Mhm.
might be less. My subscription I've had for a long time, and so I don't know that it's available anymore, but check out Buffer.
Yeah, there's a bunch of competing plans out there that'll do the same thing, let you schedule ahead of time, and it just makes it so much easier than going to each different platform, and you can schedule these out sometimes for weeks at a time, and then just go about your business. I mean, set aside a day to have social media agony and do all these posts, and then just forget about it for a month or so.
Are you, and maybe this is a question for the group, so I'm going through a whole kind of strategic plan now for my socials.
Mhm.
I have, Facebook, I have LinkedIn, I have Instagram. Not so much on Twitter. I don't really like Twitter, so I don't use it much. But I'm finding that I tend to, and I have TikTok. I'm finding that the type of posts that I do is different for each one because it's a different audience for me, depending on the platform. So that's what I'm trying to do is trying to figure out a way to do my marketing that varies across all of the platforms.
Yeah, I personally don't have a one size fits all approach. My approach is, I guess, if you want to say, as much as the internet can be old school. So I started out about 16 years ago doing architecture photography. And at that time, I'm the new kid on the block. But at that time, there was not much in the way of like really good websites or social media. And so my background was also in website design as well. And so I integrated like SEO, but also like just creating like project article blogs. So if I worked on a project, even if it was just like a warehouse, I would post it and then it would get kind of like just organic, kind of SEO to my website. And I've integrated that as kind of social media has come along. So like LinkedIn has been a huge boon for my business. I don't necessarily get the views that Alan gets, but the engagement has been great. So whenever I post a project, I'll post about 4 or 5 images. The way that I do hashtags is I do believe that like a lot of architecture and construction, everybody it's insular and everybody knows each other. And so I always try to kind of tag like a location. Like I'll say North Carolina architecture or Tennessee architecture or wherever the city might happen to be to kind of help engagement in that particular area, right? Because people are watching that, people will get linked into that. I do find my audiences on Instagram and LinkedIn are very different. I feel that LinkedIn is LinkedIn's become much more of a search engine and they've advertised themselves that way, right? You may have heard their radio advertisements or on the internet. And so, I would say probably about almost every day I get an inquiry through LinkedIn just because people are making active searches for it. So if you have a huge history on LinkedIn, that really helps. And then I'll also post my blog as well. And so what will happen is, for every project that you have, there's usually at least another 4 or 5 parties that are interested in it, even if they haven't hired you. So, they may not contact you for another year, but they're probably looking for that project. And so they don't know unless it's out there. Otherwise, what they're doing is they're contacting the architect or the contractor. And then as far as Instagram, so the difference that I personally find with LinkedIn and Instagram, LinkedIn, I feel like it's much more, I think the age group is older. They tend to be much more the actual architects or the principals and the project managers. And then if I share on Instagram, the engagement tends to be much more either the marketers or the marketer specialists are kind of underneath them. And I personally, again, because I'm older, I have much more success with, I just don't engage as much with Instagram. I think you can't necessarily do everything well, is my personal opinion. So I think you kind of have to find what works for you and really kind of go with that.
And that's one of the things for me, for Instagram in particular. When I first started, I'm relatively new to architectural photography. I've been doing it professionally for about 8 years. And when I first started with Instagram, for me, it was basically my online portfolio. It was all pictures. I'm finding it's pretty much a video platform now. So anything that I have to, and it was hard for me to break away from, the old school mentality of, no, I have to put pictures up, to now it's transitioned to mostly video content. And that was a hard transition for me because, we're photographers. We want to post our pictures, right? But and so across the board, like for me, Instagram is now kind of, I reference my work, but it's more video stuff, and it's more, to me, it's more local highlights type of work. LinkedIn is still the professional, mostly executive level contractors, architects. I agree with that. TikTok for me is all my fun, silly, behind the scenes stuff that I do with my staff. And then Facebook, just because I've had a personal account forever. So that's what I'm doing now. And that's why I say each platform for me is different as far as what I post on it. But I do like the idea of one central platform like Hootsuite or Buffer. I'll look into Buffer. I haven't seen that. To be able to manage this, because I also have some of my staff is helping with it now as well. It's not just me doing the content. So a way for everybody to post and manage would be great.
I know for me, if I just had to pick one, it would be LinkedIn, because that's where my business comes from. I mean, I get engagement on the other platforms, but they really aren't important as far as generating business for me. And it's LinkedIn where I find people will contact me and they will say, I've been following you for several years on LinkedIn, and now we have a project, or I saw this and it looks like something that we need in this part of the country. And so that's where the leads actually come from. Maybe. And
I would agree with you, but I think we're in the same age group. My staff is much younger, and for them, it's all about Instagram.
Yeah, and I was going to say that if it's marketing directors that I'm trying to target, then I'm missing most of them, because they're not looking at LinkedIn.
Right.
They're looking at Instagram or TikTok or those kind of platforms.
One thing about LinkedIn is it's not just about posting. It's that I find, for instance, that if I've done cold emails, I'll see people looking at my Instagram, my LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
And LinkedIn enables you to put just a tremendous amount of information on there. So it's not just posts. You can put, paragraphs about your capabilities. You can put links to other things, your education or lack of education. You can hide that. Well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I am a university dropout, but it was a good school. So, I think it's important to drop out of a good school. But people do check you out. So if you don't have good information on LinkedIn, you're missing out on a marketing opportunity. And that's just passive marketing. It just sits there. Yeah. And you can tweak it. It's very easy to tweak. I personally don't do the business with getting recommendations or any of that sort of thing. But, the important thing about LinkedIn to remember is it's not really for us. It's not for freelancers. While it's about business, it's mostly aimed at kind of corporate life. Mm-hmm. And for people to be able to track each other as they go from job to job, or company to company rather, or get promoted within a company. But it certainly works really well for freelancers. So that's not a slam on LinkedIn in any way. But along those lines, finally, it's also because people do post, there is sort of a reasonably active community there once you get started with it. So if you comment, I believe this helps with your SEO a little bit, and it can also drive people to check you out on LinkedIn who might never have even heard of you because you've commented on somebody else's post. Could be an architect, it could be another photographer, it could be somebody who's into political science, anything at all. It's um, very active, and it's kind of adult oriented in the sense that it's not about teenagers showing their groovy stuff. But those teenagers grow up and they become young adults who check out LinkedIn and
Yeah, and that is the good
TikTok.
thing about LinkedIn. They do like, even if they're on Instagram, eventually they're gonna have to, like, as they move up, they're gonna have to become much more engaged with LinkedIn. So I don't
Yeah,
think that's something that's going to peter off.
yeah,
On LinkedIn, the thing that I like about it is every time you comment, it lists your name and your company. Um, so that people start to become, if you make some wise comments about some good architectural posts or some good looking buildings and that sort of thing, right there it says your name and it says your company, which I think is a good way to get yourself out there.
Yeah, another point of engagement too on LinkedIn is the groups, and
Yeah.
not a lot of people give emphasis to that, but that drives a lot of traffic to your profile
mm,
too. Or if you comment and engage in those different professional groups, and those groups can be non-photography groups, interior design and architecture and those kinds of things, where you can engage with people who have the potential to hire you. And if you've got something reasonably intelligent to say, it certainly enhances um, your profile and their opinion of you.
yeah. So your name is always kind of a hyperlink
Yeah,
on its own.
exactly.
And so I would like to mention something that drives me crazy. There's several very active photography groups on Facebook that I engage with. And somebody comes on and they say, I need an assistant. And I'm going to this city. I need an assistant. Or I got a gig coming up. I need an assistant. And people pop up and they say, well, I'll do it. I'll do it. Or they tag somebody else. Then you go look at their profile page and there is zero way to get a hold of them other than through messaging. There's no link to their website. There's no photos of their work. You don't know what they know. All you know is who their friends are. And it's such a lost opportunity. So I've had people that I wanted to hire, but I will not hire them. Well, no, even in desperation, I won't hire them if I can't see their work. And the fact is most assistants are also photographers, and they will have something on their website that indicates their level of skill. So, you never really know about assistants, how good assistants they are until you've actually worked with them, right? Because the skills that assistants have is their social skills, and are they thinking ahead of me? Are they trying to save my butt by keeping me from causing trouble? Those are all the things that you really count on, assistants to do, to pay attention in certain ways. That's never going to be indicated on their websites, but at least you can get an email or a phone number and contact them. So I think that young people who are coming up and trying to become a photographer, or even wanting just to be an assistant, because you can now make a pretty good living just being an assistant, or not just being an assistant, being an assistant, you can do well. It's a real lost opportunity, and it chaps my butt a little bit to have people get tagged and then you can't find them. Anyway, I'm sorry, I've gone on a rant. I'll stop.
That's so unlike you, Barry.
I think that applies to photographers too. So I just was referred to a drone photographer yesterday, tried to contact, and they just have a contact form. There's no email address, there's
Yeah.
no phone number, right?
Mhm.
And that sort of thing kind of drives me crazy. It's just an easy, I think part of it stems from, like, most of us don't have our mailing address out there. Like, everybody knows what we do. Like, it's okay to put your phone number and email address
Oh
out
yeah,
there, you
yeah.
know? So yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, you don't, to that end, you don't, I think I was told a long time ago, don't put your physical address on there because if you're a photographer, people who might have bad intentions will know where they can find highly portable, very expensive equipment, and they may steal it from you. So don't make their life easier.
Yeah, there's something to that.
I got a question about SEO
Hmm.
because I don't think anyone's ever hired me without looking at my website first, even on a repeat referral kind of thing. And my website really works for me. When people look at it, I get hired. But I'm not reaching people at all with the SEO, just like people coming randomly to my site. And I've tried once, I paid like $300 a month or something for some, one of these India companies or somebody like that to try to improve all my SEO. And I don't know if they ever really did or not. They did work for me for about 3, 4 months doing that. And maybe it's better, but I still haven't received a single um, notice from someone who didn't already know me. So just wondering what anyone does to work on their SEO on their websites.
Like all SEO, like you may have heard the phrase like all SEO is local. And and Google's gone, Google and the other searches have come a long way as far as organic as opposed to kind of rigging the system. And so the things that I would, again, I haven't seen your website, but things that I would do is as far as alt tagging all your images, making sure that there's a location tied to it. If you've shot something in Jacksonville, Florida, say it's in Jacksonville, Florida. Again, like I do think, again, there's not that many people that blog. That's also easy hanging fruit. Like honestly, like the articles that I post, like I get engagement separately on their own because people are kind of looking for that. And the search engines pick on that. And so they're like, hey, Sterling works in this location and he works in this location. And so organically all those bots are picking that up automatically.
Yeah, good point. The alt tags are a huge thing that I rarely see people doing, photographers doing, I should say.
And then if you're also doing that on your social media, on your LinkedIn
Yeah.
and your Instagram, like the search engines are also picking up on those. And so it's taking all that information and saying, hey, let's go ahead and bump this person up on, whoever's searching for you.
Mhm.
I also wanted to comment on something that Alan had talked about how you deal with posts, how you format posts and so forth. So the role model that I use for myself, but also that I tell my students when I teach, is somebody that doesn't really doesn't work in our area. It's Art Stryber, who's a celebrity photographer. His posts, though, he does essentially 2 posts for each project. Now, mind you, everybody wants to see celebrities and people want to see behind the scenes. So what he does in the first post is say, here's the gig, here's how we set up our lighting. And he'll show you shots of the actual lighting and all that. And here's the set. But and then he'll do another post later on that says, here's the finished ones. But in each of those posts, he hashtags pretty much every single person that was involved. The hair, the makeup, the client, his assistants, the people that might have made props, everybody gets tagged. And I think what that does, and plus he's funny. He writes very clear, very good, clear sentences, but he's also funny. There's a humanity about it. And I think he does it himself. He doesn't hand it off to a social media company or an assistant even. Anyway, but one of the things that I believe that does is when somebody goes to look at your Instagram, they see that you are a generous person, right? They see that you're funny, that you're kind of human, that you're not guarding all your secrets to your chest, that you're open. Because people, particularly people who haven't worked with you before, they want to know kind of at least a little bit what kind of person you are. Are you a nice person? Are you going to be a good hang? You're going to be together all day and maybe multiple days, or they're never going to meet you. So how are you going to represent them, from across the country when they send you off on a gig? So all of that is embedded kind of in that, how he does that. So and plus these are great, they're great stories. So it's AS Pictures. So if you want to go look at his stuff, and plus he is genuinely a nice man. I knew him a tiny bit when I lived in LA. So.
Yeah, that'd be a good reference. There's a lot of great posts out there that are easy to use as a format or a jumping off point.
Yeah. So, and it's eye candy. I mean,
yeah,
if there was a way to develop a tax deduction for looking at photos online, I would certainly take it.
I think the biggest problem that I have with social media is being able to quantify whether it is doing any good at all for me. Sometimes, I mean, from time to time, you get somebody that comes to you directly, or that says, "I've been following you," things like that. But it's a tough one to quantify. It's not like direct response mail campaigns used to be, and things like that, where you could quantify it immediately. So that's a hard one. So I mix. I mean, I still mix direct email with my social media. I do at least quarterly and sometimes monthly direct email to a fairly sizable audience. And then I do have the social media icons, and I find that I get a lot of engagement from those. I can track those with the analytics from my email when it goes out, and I get a lot of engagement in my social media that comes just from people clicking through on the email, which is kind of surprising to me, but they do it nonetheless.
Well, they're looking for eye candy too.
Yeah.
I mean, people that are in communications or photo editors certainly, that's part of their gig is they have to go search and look for people. Or
Barnum T. Bailey.
What's that?
Barnum T. Bailey said that half of all marketing efforts and expense is a waste of time. The tricky thing is to figure out which half.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Alan, do you use a mail program for like I use MailChimp for my newsletter. Do you use anything for like your email or anything like that?
I'm using Benchmark email right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost identical to MailChimp. I just got a better deal on it than I did on MailChimp. Mm-hmm. So it was all. Yeah. But I use Benchmark, and it allows me to put together contact lists, and it has really good analytics as far as telling me who opened it and who bounced and all that kind of stuff. So I can keep the list really clean, keep the bounce rate down really low, and consequently keep the open rate pretty high.
Yeah. One and the other thing that so two things on that. So one thing that I do is like whenever I get an inquiry is I ask people how they found me.
Yeah.
And that gives me also a good measure. I will say LinkedIn, it's been a lot. Like a lot of it has been through LinkedIn. The other thing I would say is like I think a lot of times like people get confused, and I think y'all have talked about this before between like marketing and sales. And I've honestly never concentrating on sales. Like I think half the game is just letting people know that you exist essentially. And so I think all these techniques are just getting yourself in front of people and just keeping them in mind, just one way or the other.
Yeah, I think the equivalent is awareness for marketing. Really, it is about awareness rather than closing a sale, and a lot of that has to happen directly in making, closing a contract and things like that. That's something that has to happen directly. But awareness and in advertising, reach and frequency are a big part of the success of anything that you do.
Repetition.
Your reach and frequency have to be tweaked to the point where to get a successful campaign, and that is dependent upon your message as well as the channels that you use. So I mean, that's kind of the old school definition of advertising, but that's what I learned early on. And so I still subscribe to that.
I think that's true. Repetition. Yeah.
Because
I've
it's
always
usually
heard
not
that,
the
and
first
I'm
time that somebody sees my stuff that they call me. It's usually the 10th time. And I think the same is true of social media. If you're posting once a month, it's much different awareness than if you're posting 3 times a week, maybe, or at least once a week. So I think this would be a different conversation if we had some of our 20-somethings on.
Yeah.
There's a couple of photographers in the group who are doing some really fun stuff that's Instagram and TikTok videos that are kind of like the behind the scenes and part of the process kind of videos. And I think those are really engaging.
Yeah. They're
They don't
doing
ever
well with
show
it, and they're
their
getting
face.
clients with it, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I wish I had the capability of doing that.
Yeah. There's Kyle Wiege in Madison, Wisconsin. He does some really fun stuff, and he's not here today, but that kind of stuff, I wish I had the aptitude to do that, the capability, but that seems to come really difficult for me. But
well, sorry.
Go ahead, sorry, Barry.
No, I interrupted you.
I think that those are skill sets that maybe I just aged out past. I don't know.
Well, the thing about video is that I believe this to still be true. I'm not an SEO expert. Is that what Google likes, and it's all about Google,
Yeah.
whatever, right? It's time of engagement. So video by default, whether it's 1 second long or 30 seconds long, your eyeball is on that spot for a longer period. And I am told that that's the sort of thing that Google likes. And if Google likes it, then all the engineers at LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere else are paying attention to that too. So some of this is mysticism on my part. I admit that. But it is true that Google likes video. So video on all that may help with the SEO as well, at least in terms of maybe raising a half a second higher in the rankings.
I think that.
Do any of you make your own reels? Little short videos that you post?
Anything. I'm not sure it matters, but I mean, you're not going to want to put you can't put very long stuff, certainly on Instagram. I think if you have a professional Instagram, you can go past the 1 minute length. But I try to keep things to 1 minute anyway. And it's so easy to string stuff together. I mean, I use DaVinci Resolve now, but I used to do it in iMovie. It's
you can even do it in Lightroom for that matter.
Yeah.
Lightroom will put that together, and you can put music with it or whatever. It's super simple.
It's super simple, and it doesn't have to be fabulous. I mean, it doesn't. You're not doing a trailer for a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a good point though, that there's hardly ever going to be a viral photograph, but there's always viral videos.
Yeah. And behind the scenes stuff, my wife will always take pictures of me taking pictures. And I have one assistant who I love, and she's always taking pictures of me, making pictures. So I have a stash of myself doing things. I even have one with a client who had a drone. He wouldn't listen to me, and he took a picture of me taking a picture from way up high. It turned out to be a pretty good picture, so I've used that.
And you can also pair up with the client. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been where I had no idea where I've been tagged by the client because we're on a shoot. I'm just kind of doing my thing. And then they'll just tag you and they'll post it, and you check in that night like, oh, okay, sort of thing. But, that could also be done intentionally as well.
Yeah.
I see interior designers doing that more often than anyone else. And that's great. I think that's great. Is anybody using a professional social media company, or have you? I mean, I get hit by offers every day for somebody to take over and do my social media. It's either, through email or phone calls and things like that. I've yet to jump on that, but I don't know if they're even capable. They're just on the phone. So.
Well, my sense is sort of in the same way that LinkedIn is so oriented toward the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of SEO experts that I hear are not experts for freelancers. They're using the kind of general take of what is successful for a corporation. Now, I'm not saying those kinds of ideas can't be applied to individuals like ourselves. We are businesses after all. However, I think that there's a lot of mumbo jumbo out there that sounds that the expertise of doing SEO correctly is very specific and requires a vast knowledge. And I don't believe that to be true. I think it's true if you're Ford or you're Walmart or something like that. You've got different issues you got to deal with than, and particularly retail, for someone like us. And so my belief, and I stick to it, is that just doing anything is better than nothing. And so all the things that we've talked about, just doing hashtags, making sure there's alt text, keeping your social media clean, because people check you out, right? They look at your Facebook. They want to know what you're up to. I mean, what I tell my students is, that picture of you with the beer bong, you want to remove that from your social media feed. I mean, unless you're, your primary client are going to be, skateboarders and snowboarders, then it's not a problem. They want to know what your beer bong is like, But for the rest of us, you got to have a pretty clean social media. And I think that is also something that corporations do. So all those kinds of basic concepts totally apply, but you don't have to get too esoteric about it for us. And we have a kind of limited market anyway. We're B2B. We're business to business. We're not trying to reach 150 million American citizens by something.
Yeah, and I think all those random people who always ask about, unless they know about the industry, they're kind of useless. I've had a couple conversations, asked them some questions, and they have no idea how to answer them. But what I will say, and I've seen this on LinkedIn and some other places, there are marketing agencies, small ones that are popping up that cater to the AEC industry. Maybe they were former marketers or something like that. They may be much more of help just because of their familiarity with the industry. I haven't spoken with any of them, but I have kind of seen them popping up here and there.
Yeah, they're PR. There are a lot of PR and kind of branding agencies that work with architects, interior designers, and to some extent with a lot of interior designers also have retail lines of furniture and things like that they make. So I don't know whether those people would apply, but I would think inside those companies, there are people there that do social media marketing.
One thing I wanted to bring up before we, get close to the end of the hour here is your Google business listing, and it's not, it's not strictly social media, but I think it's something that we should touch on, because I think it can have a big impact on people finding you and engaging with you and having your website come up. If you have a complete and well-composed Google business listing, and there's really a fair amount that goes into making that happen rather than just claiming it. If you go into Google, I mean, if you claim the business listing to begin with, and you go in and then you start to populate all the things that it's going to ask you to do, it'll take you the better part of a day to figure that out and get that all taken care of. What that'll do for you, however, is it's going to give you an advantage when people are doing organic searches, specifically in your area, but you can widen your area to be the entire continental United States if you choose to. And that is a big source of organic traffic for me, is my business listing. I don't do any AdWords or pay-per-click of any kind on the internet, but I do get significant traffic through my Google business listing. And so if you haven't claimed that yet and really gone in and completed all of the different parts of that listing and added photographs and testimonials and ask for client reviews and those kinds of things, I think you're missing some significant free advertising. It can really make a huge difference. Has anybody else had, a similar experience with that Google business listing?
Yeah, I have it, and it's phenomenal. It's helped me expand into other states.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized how wide you could make the area. I've definitely received good leads on my Google business listing, but I had kept it fairly local. So I didn't realize we could expand it out further outside of state.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in here too. I'm sorry I was late to the webinar, but my Google listing does really well. And if you populate it with photos and alt tags on your photos, it helps a lot. You get a lot. Google really likes that. And if you can put some video up in there, it's great. So I do some social media and some direct email campaigns with MailChimp, but I haven't done a lot in a long time. But the Google listing is very, very helpful. Get reviews on there, and it's amazing.
And Google, and that one thing too is putting regular posts on that listing. I mean, it's just like a social media post where you can put up your newest project or whatever, tag other people in it, make sure you have those alt tags on your images. And it really points a lot of people to you that are looking for a photographer. So
I think one of the points with the posts that, as I've had it explained to me, and I've experienced this, is it isn't as much how many people go and actually view those posts. It's that Google likes that you're basically stroking its ego, and it moves your listing higher. So the posts are getting Google's attention and giving you benefits, even if the public isn't necessarily looking at them at all.
I think that's absolutely true, because I've seen mine bump just because I keep updating posts. Google likes to see those regular updates on making a Google post, and it just takes a couple minutes. But I don't see a lot of photographers, honestly, who claim that. I tried to contact a couple of photographers recently whose images appeared with a company who was infringing mine, and I was trying to alert them, and I had a terrible time trying to even locate these photographers. For one thing, like was mentioned earlier, I think Sterling mentioned that all they had was a contact form. There was no email address, no telephone number. And then they didn't have a Google business listing. And it was just really seriously frustrating to try to contact these photographers. I think if I had been a client, I'd have given up long ago on that.
Also, I have to say, it's so easy to put your location on your website and your social media.
Yeah.
Because, the days of bigger budgets are, maybe over. I hear rumors. And so, you're a little more likely to be hired if you live in the area. It's no more complicated than that.
And I think a lot of the clients are also more educated as well. Like if you're an architect out of Minnesota and you're searching in South Carolina, everybody, there's a certain radius of photographers. You may hire someone out of Tennessee, for example. Like they're not dumb to it.
Yeah. And there's a certain comfort level if they can see projects, on the listing itself. Rather than some of the Google business listings you see for businesses where it's customer photos that are on there, because you can disable that on your listing so that you don't have customers posting crappy photos.
I have a question regarding Google listings. A lot of people work out of their houses, out of their own homes. Do you list your home address in that?
You can turn it off.
You can turn that off. Yeah.
Yeah, I have mine turned off. So
Yeah, so and sometimes if you have it turned on and it's a home address, Google has some algorithms. We had to go through it because they saw my address as a residential
Right.
and they shut me down. So I had to go through a Google verification and all these forms to get reinitiated on Google Maps. They just dropped me from Google Maps.
Oh, but if you want people to know where where you're located, yeah, I mean, you just state you're in a certain city, or how do you
Yeah,
state?
just state you're in the metro area or whatever. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Somebody suggested I could use a PO box, and apparently a lot of people do that.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, and I've got a couple friends who use the UPS store, the box there as a street address, so that they find a UPS store that's in, a downtown area, and even though they don't live there, they've got that nice downtown street address, which that helps a lot too.
And there's virtual addresses and virtual phone numbers.
Sure.
If I had to redo everything over again, I think one mistake that I made, and this is very early on, is I used my cell phone for my business very early on, and now phones just all the time. So I would encourage you to get a separate phone number if you can.
Yeah, there's I use a company called Buy Local Numbers, and so I've got local numbers in several metro areas around the country.
Yeah.
And that's just a few dollars a month for that service. It's really cheap.
I'm not sure that listing your phone number, not listing your phone number, they just find it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit, I put my phone number on my website. I don't put it on my social media. And I get all those spam calls.
Yeah, I use a couple filtering apps on my phone so that I don't have to answer those kinds of things. But yeah, I don't have clients call me, so most of my contact with my clients is email.
Yeah.
Nobody bothers to call me anymore.
Yeah,
Unless they're mad at you, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess.
So on one of our past meetings, we talked about the fact that despite all the social media and all the email and everything, there's nothing like talking in person with your clients, whether it's on the phone or visiting actually their office or whatever. And do any of you have a regular plan whereby you either call your clients every so often, not over a job you already have, but just, hey, how are you doing? I haven't heard from you for a while, any of that? Or that you actually go by some of your clients' offices and just pop in from time to time? Just wondering if anybody does any of that.
Yeah, all of it really. Like whenever I get the time, if I send an email, I'll always follow up with a phone call. If I have time, I'll swing by the office. There's print media, like all of it matters, but it's complementary. I don't think it's an or situation. I think it's just and.
I also think a lot of my sense is that of all the other specialties that architectural photographers do, it is headshots. People want to work with people they already like. But I will say that, for instance, I had a failed dream of doing travel photography because I thought I could get my trips paid for. I know there's no money in it. And I eventually just removed that from my website because I thought it was just confusing to people. My website's already confusing to people. 90% of what I do is architecture, but I do other kinds of work, and I've gotten hired to do architecture kind of for contractors, but also to do headshots for one contractor, as well as doing on-site documentary photography of people raising walls. So that in many people's minds fits in with that. But yeah, I believe I've probably lost some jobs because I show that I do other work, but I think I've gained other work because I show up.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up here. And I appreciate everybody that's contributed here. We'll continue the chat on the backside here after we stop the recording. But thanks to everybody who's participated on this discussion about social media. I think there's been some really excellent points. I've learned a lot personally, and I hope that those of you who participated have as well. This recording will be up on podcast platforms and on YouTube here in the next couple days. And I know I'm going to take a second listen because there are some things I think I missed. But thanks again to everybody. And we'll announce the next month's meeting here shortly, and hope we see you all back here again. Again, stick with us if you want to continue chatting here for a little while, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.
This has been another episode of A Photographer's Life. If you've enjoyed this program, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. A Photographer's Life is brought to you by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This episode is copyrighted and may not be used in full or in part without the written permission of the AIAP. Please join us again soon for another inside look at the world of professional architectural photography.